Jill Prescott is a successful international speaker and a spiritual badass. She has recently written a book called No More Fucking Secrets that, in her words, unlocks the shackles of silence and opens the dialogue for change. From a very early age, Jill was an empathic soul on a mission, but she was to go through struggles that would shape her life, preparing her for a role she did not yet know. At the age of 9, Jill went through physical and sexual abuse by the hands of another older girl she thought was her friend. The abuse she experienced as a child really colored her life from there on. Then, at the age of 16, she was raped and went through further abuse through the hands of people she had trusted. Despite the challenges she faced as a child, Jill turned things around, and as a young adult, she found herself working as a retail manager in the automotive industry. But she still carried the wounds from childhood, and not being able to recognize them, they soon manifested in a life-threatening illness. At 44, Jill was diagnosed with brain lesions. Her spirit saw that as a wake-up call, and her resilience ensured she walked away from her stable job to start a whole new path. A path of healing herself, and slowly healing others through the work she does today. Jill is a speaker, workshop facilitator, published author, hypnotherapist, coach, and a gifted intuitive energy healer. Hello, my friend. Welcome to Voice of the Entrepreneur. We have a really special guest with us here today. We got Jill Prescott. She's an international speaker, renowned coach. She's the author of the book, No More Fucking Secrets, and just an amazing person to sit down and talk to. So without further ado, I'd like to get into a conversation with Jill Prescott. Jill, thank you so much for taking this time to sit down here with me and just sharing this precious moment that we're going to have here.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. So, Jill, tell us a little bit about your work. I know you go by the name Spiritual Badass,
I do.
which is incredible because I've never heard of that term before. And when I first, heard about you and read about you, I think it was just something that popped up. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what your work is like and why Spiritual Badass.
Yeah. So for me, Spiritual Badass really means somebody who's willing to stand firmly in their belief of who they are, the idea that we are divine humans, that we are connected to one source, and oneness is the truth of it, and that we are love. So I think it's really someone who believes firmly in what they talk about, that is willing to really be present with that for themselves, and that's how I am. So, badass often will imply somebody who's aggressive, all of that stuff. That's not really, I am very straightforward, and I do swear occasionally, but that's not really speaking to the badass part. I think for me, it's that willingness to stand firmly in what I believe.
Wow, that's really incredible because the way you describe it, for someone that doesn't know about it, it could be a little intimidating in many ways. But now when I hear you saying it, it's like, really? Yeah, it's like really taking this stand.
Yeah, and I stand for me and mine, and I also stand for you.
Right.
So I take a very firm stand for my clients, for their greatness, for them to really see who they are through the eyes that I look at them through, which is pure love and divinity.
Right.
And really seeing them in their full potential. Recognize them as the incredible human beings that they are.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, with that, obviously you're doing work that you love, that you're incredibly passionate about. I can see it. It just comes through you. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your journey, about how, where you were before, and then how you got into it, but focusing more on the transition and the challenge that you faced.
Well, I did 20 years as a financial services manager in the automotive industry. And it served me tremendously in a lot of ways for a very long time. It was, strangely enough, a very brilliant training ground for what I do now, because I dealt with every human being walking the planet, every personality, every struggle. They'd come into my office, and they would come with all their baggage and all of their fears and all of their excitement and everything else. Right. So when I finally really made the final transition out of the car business, because I tried to get out a couple times, is when I realized that I was spending more time coaching people than I was actually doing the dealership any business.
Right.
So oddly enough, it actually made me more successful, but I knew that it was time. It was just not right for me to be there anymore. That feeling was coming along. And it was still challenging to leave. So the last straw for me happened when I was 44, 45. I'm 50 now. I'm getting mixed up on my timing. But essentially, I started to have some medical issues. So I was having memory loss issues. I was getting lost in my own neighborhood. I was having out-of-body experiences. And this is when I had just began to open to the possibility of having a spiritual life. I'd called myself an atheist before. I was raised Catholic. I'd rejected that and really was just in the beginnings of seeking, knowing that I was not happy in my life, that I had all of the material stuff that I wanted and needed, but I wasn't happy. So when I went to go get that checked out, it turned out that I had developed brain lesions. And when they first saw them, the very first kind of kick at the can for what it might be was MS. And it scared me. So I started doing some research, and it wasn't very long before I had left the car business, and found out that there was something called a Kundalini awakening. Do you know, have you heard of that?
I've heard about Kundalini. I'm not sure about the awakening part.
Yeah. So how I like to describe it, and you can Google it for more information for something more like, legit. But what I like to say is that if you are walking through your life and you have a calling and you're not paying attention, the universe or God or whatever you want to call it will first tap you on the shoulder. And if you don't listen, you'll get a little shake. And if you're still not listening, you'll get a really big shake. And if you're not listening, you will trip and fall flat on your face, which is essentially what happened to me. So
I can relate.
Yes. So over the next year, I started working through my own healing. I did ayahuasca journeying. I did a lot more research into the depths of spirituality, and I quit the car business. I first got certified as a clinical hypnotherapist, and then really started diving into the realms of energy healing, mediumship, intuitiveness, channeling. All of these gifts started emerging from me, and I think the biggest part of that whole thing for me was really learning to trust and to surrender to all that was happening. Because seriously, it scares the crap out of you in the beginning. Like, it was overwhelming for me in the beginning, where there were some things that I just said, no, I'm not ready for that. I started seeing illness in people's bodies. It was not something I wanted. So really, it's been a big journey of allowing all of those things to come fully into play, and still knowing how to remain present in my life.
Right.
And how do you then take all of that stuff and be of deep, deep service to another? So another big kind of part that altered things for me is developing a really powerful relationship with what I like to call the Creator. So everything I do in my life, my relationships, my work, my personal, I do as a gift to the Creator. I do it in honor of the Creator, the one Creator.
Wow. Incredible journey. I mean, the one thing that I find in common with people that are living with passion and doing the work they love is that the Kundalini awakening. Although I did not know about it until now, but it's really the baseline. People have to wake up to what's calling them.
Well, it's actually that people have to get so fucking uncomfortable that they do something.
I agree.
That's what it is. I say this often. Humans are, we're a little wild. We're a little wild and crazy.
Right.
And so it takes getting like squish, squish, squish in order for us to go, okay. Yeah. There has to be something else.
It's like what they say, right? Necessity is the mother of all inventions.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. That's right.
Which is, it brings me right into my next question, is that you said there were 3 times where you decided that you wanted to get out of the car business and then get into it, but you couldn't. What was that like? What were the challenges you were facing? I'm thinking there were fears that you had that you couldn't overcome. Yeah. What did the fears look like? And more importantly, What is it that you did consciously to get over those fears?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest fear for me, there was two things. The on the surface fear was money. I'd gotten used to making a lot of money. The problem was I had no relationship with it. So I gave it away. I lent it to people that were never going to pay me back. I spent it. I wasted it. So my fear was always, how am I ever going to survive without this massive amount of money coming in every month?
Right.
So that was the on the surface fear. The underneath fears, there were two of them. The first one was literally, how will I survive? There is we are at a primal level. That is our whole thing. Right. Survive, just survive. So, and then the third part that came later that I really started to recognize was that the car business, doing that job and the accolades that came with it and the praise for how good I was with it, really, it said something to the little girl in me that said, you're stupid. So it helped her not particularly have to live with that belief. However, it was still there. So it had me get to the other side of it and identify as something other than stupid. But really what was going on in the background was, you don't actually believe this. You still are stupid. So if I left the car business, pretty good chance someone was going to find out I was actually stupid. So that's not a conscious thing. It was an unconscious thing. But in the work that I started doing, all of that became clear to me. And then I could work with her. I could really do the work with healing the little girl and being in communication with her. And really, at some point, we are raising ourselves again.
Right.
So for me, that was really what it was about.
You know, as you were saying this, I was just thinking about my own little boy, you know, because we all have that little boy.
We carry every age within us. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, I was smiling because I was thinking, yes, there is that belief that I am stupid at some level too.
Yeah.
And it holds me back in many areas of my life. It's been a challenge for me to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
And to really sit down with my little boy and do the work. How do you accept that? How do you accept that there is still a little boy or girl within us?
And guess what? There always is going to be.
Right.
But here's the brilliant thing. They have so much wisdom for us. They have so much wisdom. So, you know, yeah, she still sometimes gets that. She still tweaks me what's going on out there? And my job is to let her know she's safe. My job is to work here with myself to really keep looking at that, acknowledging it, not pushing it aside, not pretending it doesn't exist, but changing the story, rewriting that story internally, having the conversations with self and others that support something different.
Right.
And it's a lifetime process.
I agree.
And that's okay. That's okay. It's all here in every single moment is an opportunity and a gift to us to bring us even further into our own awakening and our coming into consciousness.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely. And in my experience, and I agree and relate with you 100%, it's those little tiny actions that then amount into a new story.
Yeah.
But you have to go out there and do the work that gives you the opportunity to create that new story.
Yeah. And that happens day to day to day. So one of the things that I do with clients is I take a small number of clients each throughout the year that I work with one-on-one.
Okay.
And really, I say to them in the beginning, the work happens between our sessions. So we're going to have this conversation, or we're going to do this process, or whatever it is that happens in the session, and you're going to have a big breakthrough, or an aha, or a new insight, or a view of something differently, and then you're going to go in your life, and that's where the work happens. Right. When you take this and you practice it in your life, because that's what life is for. That's what we're doing here. Yes. So, you know, we just keep staying in touch with the whole thing, and the real beauty happens in the in-betweens. And then all of a sudden, you know, I'll have somebody who I worked with a year ago get in touch and go, I just looked back over what had changed. And that's how it works. The little tiny things that you do over and over, and then you look back and go, wow, I'm not everything is different.
Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
Isn't that incredible?
Yes.
It's those little
Yes.
things that then amount to something.
Yes.
And, you know, I was thinking about your journey and how you are now, you know, you've been in this for a while. You've been doing this. You've helped so many different people. And now you're an international speaker. Mm-hmm. So the universe is asking more of you.
Absolutely.
It's asking you to step
Terrifying.
up your
and
game.
Yes.
Right. And it's showing you a bigger screen and saying, hey, you got to play the bigger game.
Yeah.
We're inviting you to the big boys table,
right.
if you will.
Yeah.
So how do you go from there? Like, how do you go from starting out to now accepting that I am playing a bigger game and preparing yourself for that? Are there things you do to prepare yourself for that?
Well, I have support always. I will always have mentors. I will always have a coach in my life. I will always have people that surround me to support. Yeah. Because we don't walk this path alone. So, you know, really it is a matter of just showing up over and over and over again and dealing with what shows up over and over and over again. You know, I'm preparing to do the TEDx Stanley Park talk. Right. 2,673 seats or something in this theater. It's a big deal. And potentially millions of views on YouTube. So I've surrounded myself with a team. I have somebody, a woman named Sandy Dow, who is what I like to call my performance coach. She's helping me really deal with the anxiety that rises with this and the tension in the body so that I'm prepared, that I don't get sick beforehand, that I'm ready to go on that stage and really give a talk that is deeply impactful from the true passion itself. I have someone who's helping me craft the talk, someone else who's helping me with the staging, all of it. Because the investment in myself means that I will be fully prepared to create something that potentially can impact millions. Absolutely. So if I'm going to invest, I'm going to do it that way.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is preparation, and then having that support that, you know, allows you to prepare and really deliver when the time comes.
That's right. And the other part of it is this. I think this is really important for people. Know why you're doing what you do. Because that why will pull you forward. The talk that I'm doing is, let me tell you a secret. And it is really about the impact that keeping secrets has in our lives. Because I know intimately the depth of the impact of not speaking. So with that in front of me, that means that there might be even if there's one child that instead of burying what happened in their youth, they actually speak it and it stops and they get help before it turns into what it turned into for me, then that's worth it. Incredible. It's worth all the hours. It's worth the commitment. It's worth the angst and the, you know, freaking out.
Absolutely.
All of that stuff.
You know, I say this to entrepreneurs of all different kinds, that if you're going to do something that you love, even if you change the life of one person, it's all worth it.
It's worth it.
I know it's for me. And the impact doesn't have to be a life-changing impact, but an impact in itself.
One single little moment. The ripple effect is vast.
It's amazing how things can change with even just a single conversation.
Totally.
And this is really the reason why I do this, is because of conversations like this. The heartfelt, good stuff that happens between two people that really want to talk about their stories and, you know, and hope to inspire others with that.
That's right. Yeah.
Jill, you are an entrepreneur. Obviously, you are. You know, you work for yourself. You're doing the work you love. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. And how did you set up a business around the work you love? Because that's the question in most people's head, right?
Yes.
I love this or I love that. But how can I set up a viable business through which I can make a living?
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that it's not an overnight thing. It takes work. It takes time, experiencing, making mistakes, falling down, getting back up, spending money wrong. You know, it was something that really didn't serve you, and then learning from that. The entrepreneur journey is not. It's not an easy journey. However, the rewards are vast. So, you know, I'm not a business coach, and so I sought help for that too. Find someone who you admire, who really is standing in integrity with their work, and get the help.
Right.
Get the help. Okay. And if you can't afford it in the beginning, then start small. YouTube has a bazillion videos on everything you could possibly do.
Absolutely.
And remember that it takes time. And I'm going to repeat that again because so many people think, I'm doing this, and nothing's happening, nothing. And then all of a sudden, which is what's happening for me just the last few months, after 4 years of every day, it's now starting to show.
Yes.
Right? So, get help, know it takes time, stay committed to the journey, and be willing to kind of make a little turn to adjust on the path as you go. What I'm doing today is not what I did before.
Right.
The offerings that I have changed as I've grown, as I've stepped, keep moving towards more fullness of who I am, then those offerings shift and change. So there's also that part of it, especially in the work that this kind of realm that I'm in. So.
Right. So having that support is absolutely important, and it's the little steps that you take, like we were talking about before in creating your story.
Every day.
Right. So many people, so many of us don't have that grit. We don't have that perseverance, and because we don't see the results, it's easy to quit and easy to let go of it.
Yeah.
How did you continue on that path? You said 4 years, and you may have not seen results.
And again, I can only speak for myself for how this happens. But for me, because obviously several times I looked at, okay, just go get a job. Just go get a job. And every time I kept getting the same information coming through. No, just stay. Just plant your feet and stay. Makes me emotional a little.
Yeah.
Because it was not easy. It wasn't easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a tough journey, and it takes commitment. It takes grit. It takes perseverance to continue through that. And that's why I have so much respect for entrepreneurs that are doing the work they love, because it's not easy. It's been glamorized. It's absolutely been glamorized because it's the new best thing. And if you become an entrepreneur, then, you hit the jackpot. Everything is wonderful. Yeah. That's not how it is.
No.
And part of this is to show people that it's a wonderful journey if you're willing to go through the blocks and the obstacles.
Yes. The rewards are terrific. And at the end, so if that's where you're at, if you're in the middle of the squishing and all of that is for your benefit. You are being transformed. You are being altered from someone who is played by somebody else's rules to being someone who plays by yours. Yes. And everything about you gets transformed in that.
Everything about you gets transformed.
So hang in.
Right.
If it's what you're passionate about, figure it out. And if you need to go get a part-time job, go get it. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that either. And again, this is why I was so cautious to say this was my journey.
Yes.
That is not the same for everybody. Right. Do what you need to support yourself. Do what you need. That is our first thing. Support ourselves.
Right.
And then spend the time you need to build the business.
Yes, absolutely.
But in the meantime, if it takes getting a job, get a job.
Get a job. Support yourself.
You can be practicing what you do at your work.
I agree.
Just in how you are being, because that's oftentimes our biggest challenge, is staying in who we are being rather than what we're doing.
And I think for so many, getting a part-time job is like, if I do get it, does that mean that I've kind of quit what I really love to do, or I failed at it? But that's not the truth. Because you're just supporting yourself so that you can take away the worry of survival in order to do the work that you love.
Exactly.
And I really love it when entrepreneurs hit that point home, is that is really the key. Is you got to make sure that you're taking care of the survival part so you can do what you love.
Exactly.
That's incredible, Jill. You also talked a little bit about the transformation. You transform as a person from being where you were before to where you are today. What does that transformation look like for someone that hasn't gone through it? What are the telltale signs of transformation that happens in that journey?
From the exterior, if you look at my life now compared to where it was then, there's a depth to my relationships that didn't exist before. There's very clear boundaries with me. I do things that I love. don't do things that I don't love. So, in the external world, it certainly looks different, but on the internal world is where it's really transformed me. There's just been so much opening to who I truly am, and a level of trust and appreciation for who I am in the world.
Right.
I mean, really, there's just nothing. There's no aspect of my life that hasn't evolved.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
it's still evolving.
It's still evolving.
Right? I want to be clear. This is a lifetime journey.
Absolutely.
When you say yes, it's a lifetime journey.
It's a lifetime journey. No, I completely agree. And you grow and you evolve with it, even in ways that you absolutely had no idea you would. And then I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's very much so.
Absolutely. I know we talked about this before, but I want to ask you, for someone that's watching this and is seeing Jill's been able to create the life that she wants, she's doing great things, I want to follow her footsteps. Mm-hmm. What would be, a few words of advice that you would give someone, kind of a small roadmap, so that they can follow it? Yeah.
That's challenging.
Right.
I mean, I would say, first of all, get really clear on why you're doing what you're doing. How is it that you actually want to be of service in the world? Mm-hmm. What is it that you want to offer the world? And get clear that the most successful people are doing things to be of service to others, to humanity. Mm-hmm. And then find someone to support you. Make sure that you've got a great group around you, people who understand you, that will, when you call and say, I can't do this anymore, and they'll say, what do you need? And come over and roll you up in a blanket and hold you for a little while till you get over it.
For sure. Support.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
And personally, and then for your business as well. Make sure that you've got some support there. And then stay with it. Don't give up on yourself. There's so much that you have to offer in the world. Right. And for those that aren't entrepreneurs, that really are, they're in an industry of service in that way too, know that you can still be of service no matter what it is you're doing. Absolutely. So a lot of grace and compassion for self, understanding that this is a journey. It's not an overnight success. Mm-hmm. Stay true. Just stay true.
Awesome. Jill, thank you so much for, again, taking the time to sit down here with me. It was a beautiful conversation. I'm sure my audience is going to find tremendous value out of it. Great. So thank you so much. Thank you. Guys, like I always say, it's another beautiful conversation with a beautiful human being that's really doing what they love. And we all have a right. I really truly believe we all have a right to go out there and do what we love and live a life of passion. So if you found inspiration from this video, go out there and apply this into your own lives. And like Jill was saying, it's those small steps every day that you take with perseverance that then amount to something that you would be pleasantly surprised to create in your life. So go out there, make your dreams a reality, and live the life that you want. Until I see you again next time, have a great one, my friend.